project, my capstone project this semester. So this is about a choose your own adventure story kind of thing. So choose your own adventure book generally is you read like the story and then you reach a certain part of the story and it presented you with like 2 or more choices. You pick one choice, you flip to page 10, you pick another, you flip to page 20. So it's a way of like letting the reader have some interaction and some control over where they want the story to go. And it's always been thinking that it's a really cool format. And even though traditionally this is only on the book format, technology has allowed a lot more innovation, especially in like video games, for example. I want to show like some example of like how technology can make this format like look way better than like the traditional book format. So, for example, this game came out in like 2015 called Life is Strange, and it has a really interesting mechanic in that every time you make a choice, if you don't like that choice, you can rewind back to the past in the recent past, and then like change your choice, and then you can see like the immediate consequence of the choice. But the thing is, you can see the immediate consequence, but you don't see the far-reaching consequences in the far future. So sometimes you make a choice and you think that it's good right now, but it's not so good in the future. It's kind of like something terrible can happen in the future because of a random choice that you make right now. I just thought it's a really interesting mechanic because it keeps track of the user's choice, and something that happened in the beginning can have an impact like by the end, basically. And this is a text game called Save the Date. Basically, it's a story about you going on a date with a girl, and she keep getting into like these freak accidents and get to the hospital or like, die. It's really terrible. But the idea of the game is that every time you restart the story, you retain the knowledge from the last time you played. So you can use that knowledge to like try to get your girlfriend out of the accident this time around. I just thought it's really interesting, and not enough like video games like makes use of it. So just move on like to like some option to write choose your own adventure story on the web right now. One is Twinnery, and the second one is Writer. So Twinnery is really powerful. It's really customizable, really flexible. The problem is that it's not very easy to get started. I am a programmer. It took me forever to find out what I have to do to like link one choice to like another segment of the story. And I was like, no, this is like way too confusing. Like it's written by programmer, probably for programmers, but it's still too confusing. Writer is kind of like the opposite. It's really easy to like get started. Anyone can do it. I tried it. I really enjoy using it. The problem is that once the story is like complex enough, Writer doesn't have like a good structure to allow you to see like the whole structure of the story. It gets pretty messy. So it's good for like beginner, but like once you have like a complex enough story, it's just not a very good option anymore. So my project is really finding a good balance between usability and scalability. So what I want to do is having an interactive wrap structure that user can like drag and drop choices and adding condition, attributes, events, persistent attribute, and I will like explain all of that terminology later on. Actually, let's do the demo. So let me do a new one. Start from the beginning and everything. Okay, this is oh no, I can only see one.
You just clone your desktop.
Oh no, it's not.
Just right click on your desktop. That's where you can make it.
Yeah. No, I can do it this way, I suppose. It's just not how I want it to look like. So okay, let's start like writing a new story, right? So start and then say that you are walking down the street, save it, and then you add an attribute. So attribute basically is like something related to the player or the reader. So for example, I'm going to say an attribute is lucky right now, and then I set the default to be 0, mean that the player is not lucky to begin with. And then right here, I add a choice. Pick up the charm on the ground, right? And then the other is keep walking. And then, so what happened now is that because the player, if the player choose to pick up the charm, you want to make it so that he is now lucky. So that's an event. So I'm going to modify the event to say that happens. So add an event, and this the attribute lucky, and then modify and then set it equal to 1 now, which means if the player choose this choice, he's going to be lucky because he got the good luck charm. Obviously, it's a very simplistic example, but you know. And then I add a new passage, and then you drag the choice from there to there, and then continue walking, and you see something on the street, and then add a choice, right? And then let's say he see the $100 bill, but I want to set it so that he only see the bill if he's lucky. So I add a condition. The condition is something that the player has to like satisfy to be able to choose the choice, basically. So I add the condition, and then the lucky, and then if lucky is equal to 1, then show the choice. And then, I don't know, bomb. And then I said
lucky equals 0.
Yeah, I said lucky equal to 0. And then I said,
your choice.
and then the choice can like branch out from here. Do this. And one, you are happy with your money. Right? And then add another one. Drag it down here. And just say it's a pretty sad ending. We're trying to keep this PG rated. So, and the other thing I want to do is have an attribute called like money, for example. And then the reader start with like no money at all. It's pretty poor. But like here, if you pick up the dollar bill, then we can add that money to his pocket. So we'll add $100 to him. Boom. So that's the basic of like writing a story. Obviously, it's probably like more complex than this, and I will show you a more complex example. But let's go to like actually reading the story, and this is how it looks like. I hate the screen though. It's not showing.
Yeah, the resolution's pretty low on
the
this.
resolution is kind of poor. So there's like a menu on the side, but like I set it so that like if the resolution is like too small, it's just hide away.
Yeah.
Can you reduce the control minus?
Oh,
that's a good idea.
Oh, there you go. Thank you.
Glad to help.
That's awesome.
So okay, so this is like the debug mode. So you can see that everything. This is the attribute on the right, and then you can see the event that happened on every choice. So you can see if you pick up the charm, the lucky is going to be equal 1. So you pick it up, you see that lucky is 1 now. And then because like the condition here is that lucky equals 0, and the condition is not satisfied, so you cannot like, choose this option. You can see here that this one is, and then so you pick up the money, and yep, you can see it there. And then let's go to like to show the read mode. It's just the same idea. It's a lot more simplistic and doesn't show everything, but it's the exact same idea. And I will show you a more complex like story that I read just.
So just a quick comment on that. I would have thought that if you're lucky, you saw the one option, but still, if you were lucky, you could see the other option as well.
Oh, I said
Right now,
condition that
mul-
you can only see the form if you're not lucky. But
Oh, I
but
didn't see you do
get
that.
rid of it.
I
Yeah.
saw.
Um,
I see.
this is a more complex example. This is a story about like exploring a cave. Doesn't really have any deep meaning. Just something I wrote like randomly for this project to show a demo. And you can see like there's a lot you can do with it. You can go pretty complex. And then there's the idea of persistent attribute. So you see here like praying is like a persistent attribute, and then the talisman count is also a persistent attribute, and I show you what that means when you read the story. And let me restart here. So say you enter the cave, right? And then this one, the condition is not met, which is pray equal to 1. But pray is 0 right now. But you can see it's a persistent attribute. What that means is that once you choose that option, it's going to persist even when you restart the story. And I show you what that means. So keep walking, and then here you have an option to pray to a weird outer. And then it set the pray to 1, you choose it. So you click pray, and then if you pray like a demon just like eat you. And you restart the story, right? But even though the story is restarted, the play attribute is still 1 because it's persistent. So it doesn't matter if the player restart the story. The attribute
Persistent for your session, or
persistent on that browser.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
I'm using local storage to save the data.
Got it.
So right like this next time around, you enter the cave. And now you can see that you can talk to the demon because last time he eat you up, and now he just keep looking forward to see you again. So yeah, you got some option here. And then yeah, it's just like the idea of persistent attribute. I thought it would be interesting because it opened a lot more like possibility and replayability to the story. Like you can make it so that the player unlock a new option like the next time you play, or if you choose like a specific choice this playthrough. So that's the idea, and then you can only save. You can also save, and then if you choose something and you really didn't like it, you can like go back there, to reset everything for you. So that's the main idea behind the project. This is only working like locally right now. I'm saving the data to local storage, and the project is like 80% like front end, so that's why I've been focusing on that. Let me go back to the presentation. Yeah, so, and also one thing I was thinking when I do the reading mode is the trade-off between security and performance. Security in that you don't want to show like a normal reader all the option and all the attributes and all of that. Performance in that if you don't show them and you only show those things in the developer mode, every time you switch back and forth, the whole thing has to be rendered again. And that worked okay with like a small story, but with like a huge story, it takes a while and it's not very responsive. And I just choose to go with like performance eventually because I thought that if a user is like tech savvy enough, he can just look up the JSON file that I'm using to save the story data and find out everything anyway. So there's no point really to worry too much about security here. And then let's move on to the technology stack. So I use React.js to power the front end. In fact, like most of what you see just now, especially the reading mode, was written in React. It's a framework by Facebook. It's really awesome, and I think it will be the new thing that replaces AngularJS. But let's see how it goes. And then I use Joy.js for the story graph, so the writing portion of the story, as you see. Joy.js has fantastic documentation, but it does take a while for me to get used to it, and I have to like rewrite my code quite a few times because I write something and I thought it worked, but then later on it was like, yeah, this is the wrong way to do it. So And then I use a node server for easy server-side rendering. I consider some other technology like Django and Flask, but since I'm using JavaScript as my main language, so I thought I just as well go with it on the server side as well. And then I use browser refi to bundle the JavaScript libraries. Browser refi is nice in that it's also let me take advantage of like some new features of JavaScript in ES6 that is not available on the browser right now, but you can add it in as like a polyfill, and browser refi will bundle all of that for you. And with a browser refi, you can also serve only like one JavaScript file instead of multiple, so you make less HTTP requests to the server. It's kind of nice. And then got to automate workflow task. It's just basically a way so you run a command and it bundle the file for you every time there's anything changes, and you don't have to worry about that. And then the good thing is that these are what I learned really. React.js is really nice, intuitive, and easy to get started. Flux, which is the architecture that Facebook recommends to use with React, helps a lot in like avoiding callback hell. So if you write like a lot of JavaScript before, you're probably familiar with like callback within callback within callback within callback, and soon enough everything is just a cluster mess. Flux solve that problem and some more. And I will talk a little bit more about Flux because I really like the idea behind. And then Joy.js has fantastic documentation. And then server-side rendering. Nice thing about server-side rendering is that you don't have to worry about SEO. So, for example, you're writing a one-page. Normally, when you write a one-page application with an AngularJS, you have to worry about SEO because the whole page doesn't get rendered until the user gets there. The data doesn't get pulled in until the user gets there. But with like React and Node.js server, you have server-side rendering. So the server processes the JavaScript and then turn it into HTML and then serve the HTML file. It's really nice, and there's a term for it. It's called isomorphic JavaScript application. And then Flux, this is how Flux works. You have an action and you send out the action. The action go to a dispatcher and then go to the store. The store is what responsible to updating the data that is tied directly to the view. And then once the store update, the view is updated, and then the view can call another action. Keep doing like that. It's kind of like a singleton pattern in the dispatcher, so that you know exactly what action is going to do what in response to which store. And also, the nature of action is that they fire and forget. So instead of like waiting to the result and then the callback, what you do is say you want to add an item, right? You fire the action called add an item, and then the store is going to actually add the item to the data. And then when the data has been added, the store is going to send out another action called, for example, add item successful. So that's another action. It's going to go through again. So the natural action is fire and forget, essentially. So you don't have to worry anytime about callback at all. And the separation of concern is really nice. But here comes the bad part. The learning curve on SVG. So SVG is for like drawing on the canvas on HTML. And it's nice in that it's vector based, so you can scale it forever. It still looks really good. But it's bad in that it doesn't support like text very well. You have like a bunch of like weird CSS attributes that is not available in normal CSS. You have to worry about a bunch of different things, and it's just really strange. And then Flux took a while for me to like wrap my head around because it's just such a different way of doing things. But it's like worth it by the end because it really does make the code base more structured and organized. And then server-side rendering. This is actually one of the problems that I have like multiple times overall on the project, and it's just such a pain because it's running JavaScript on the server, so some of the objects are not available. They are only available on the client. For example, like window or document, stuff like that are not available on the server. So when the server runs into those objects, it's like, hey, these are undefined. I'm gonna crush right now. So so some of the libraries I cannot use because it doesn't support server-side rendering. And then
5 minutes.
authentication is kind of a pain too. And at the time I started doing it, there wasn't a lot of like tutorial on authentication with like React and client-side routing. But I look back like a couple days ago, and there seemed to be a lot more tutorials. So I plan to like dive into it again. And then finally, JSX is really weird. It's like a mixture of JavaScript and HTML. You can see here, it's JavaScript, and you mix HTML into it. And it took me a while to get over it.
So is that just writing that HTML out when that function returns?
Yeah, so yeah, like
interesting.
this whole div here, you can consider as an object of the JavaScript functions returning.
Yeah, interesting.
It's strange, but like I
It's kinda
wouldn't
cool.
recommend like React development without JSX because you write React isn't all about mixing HTML and JavaScript, so you have to do it anyway. And then going forward, I plan to enhance the developer mode for reading, and then completing the authentication stuff and publishing and sharing story, all the back-end stuff. This semester I've been focusing on the front end because I think that was the important part of the application. And persistent data, the server, and just a couple of quality of life improvements to the application. So that's the plan. I do plan to work on this more after graduation because I feel like it's a fun project and some people might enjoy using it. So yeah, any question?
Just for the betterment of the world, or do you have a revenue model?
I don't have a revenue model. Because the current option right now, like Twinnery, is completely free, and IncoWriter is also free. So I don't feel like revenue model is something I could do. I might accept a donation or something. I don't know, but yeah.
But I think, just because they're free doesn't mean that you can't make some money off it also through advertisement, through sponsored links within the story or something where, kind of you go to this place and it ends up being a grocery store and it's that grocery store and hey, look, we can print a coupon while we're here.
I have a great idea for you. So you could model this to tell D&D stories and then let the users roll for initiative and then have the results come out. I think that'd be super cool.
Yeah.
I bet you could sell it. And I just wanted to compliment you on doing the vector graphic and actually taking the time to build it.
Amazing, huh?
Because we were considering doing that for our project and we didn't go with it and just built forms instead. And it's a lot easier to do forms, but like what you accomplished is super cool.
Yeah, and the extension of that joint and, adding your options over on the left side and the connecting nodes. It's really, really cool.
Right, so there's a lot of overlap between this project and the project that Courtney has.
You should just get this code.
So I'm really wondering, is there, once a story is written, does it have an export? Is there an export-import feature that we could use to essentially move data between these two platforms?
So the idea was just to consume the story on the web application because I'm using React.js to like handling like all the choices and options. So if I want to export it, it would be kind of difficult unless I export it to like HTML file or something. But then the problem is like how do you deal with like attribute and condition events and stuff like that?
You'd have to have an entire API key to just translate it.
Right.
And that'd be a nightmare to write, so probably not.
So I'm not sure like how to do it unless I bundle everything together and just export it as like a single file.
Well, ultimately, somehow you've got a series of nodes, attributes, and all that information is there. How do you store that?
Yeah, it's a JSON file. It's all as JSON format in the local storage.
So just on the client side in text JSON objects.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get some JSON to, database structure converters that are out there. So it probably wouldn't be that difficult to,
Oh no, like
pass over the JSON file or post it to one of your APIs, and then you guys just iterate through that JSON file and then insert the records into the database.
But then you need something to read it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I was thinking just the opposite, though. I was thinking of building the story somewhere else. It's maybe much simpler,
right?
And then bring it into your engine to run.
I I never thought of that, but it's certainly a possibility.
Other questions? Nicely done, man.
See, the demon eats you, and would die.
I know. But since you prayed, you can now get by them.
Have you ever played Life is Strange?
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks.
We watched, you know, like when the stepdad or whatever like comes in and he has to save you, and you have to go wide and
Instruct
hide. Yeah, we had him kick the table, and so